Hello and welcome back to Dance Studio Owner Life Coaching. On this podcast, we go deeper than strategies, how to get more students, and money. And we go in for the hard conversations and we tackle the emotions within this business of dance studio ownership. So, today I wanted to talk to you about how to coach yourself. Now, you might be wondering, why is a life coach teaching people how to coach themselves? Isn't that her job? So, the reason why I want to talk about this is because when I went through the life coach school several years ago, one of the main tenets of that program was how we can learn to coach ourselves, how we can learn the tools and resources that help us go through our life and feel empowered to make changes, to take action, and to overcome challenges. So, for me, the reason why this is important is it does a few things. First, it reminds us that we have power, even when we feel powerless with what's going on around us. So often we are looking for that thing that we must surely be missing, only to find it was already inside of us. And learning to coach yourself also gives you the ability to manage your emotions on the spot, regardless of where you are in the world. So, if we talk about first that it's a reminder that we have the ability and the power to make changes, to take action. This is a big, big, big thing that so many of us that miss out on, right? We sometimes can become victims of our circumstances. And what I mean by that is, she did this and I felt angry. Or I talked to my husband and he made me mad. We say these things as we experience life, and we allow these circumstances to change how we feel and what we do. The thing that I've learned doing this work with psychology and life coaching is that we have far more power than we know we do. And so many of us give that power away in our own minds to someone or something else. So if we look at this one example of this one customer talked to me and she made me feel mad, we need to break down what's actually happening there. Because when the customer says something and it creates a situation, a circumstance, what's happening is that our brains are receiving some sort of data, right? Let's say this dance mom is really upset about the pricing of costumes. Okay. So she's complaining about it. She's in the waiting room, and your brain is receiving that data. And it might be doing this, right? Your mind might be adding extra information that she is not providing. So, for example, one thing might be your brain is saying, oh my gosh, everyone in this room must be listening. Your brain might also be saying, who does she think she is? How dare she? Another common thought is, if she only knew the amount of work I do, she would understand. She doesn't even know all the things I do for these kids, and she has no business complaining. Your brain might also offer that um, you feel offended or hurt, that she would question your judgment. And so when your brain gets these thoughts coming up, when your brain gets these thoughts coming up, what happens is you start to react. Now, you might react and say, "Oh, no bother. She's just running her mouth again." You might also start to react with defending yourself and your studio and going to bat and ready to throw down. You might react by going home or in your office or in your car and crying about it. You might react by choosing not to react at all and walking away and trying desperately for the situation to just resolve on its own. You might also decide to give a reason, an excuse, or something to get her to stop. You could also react by inviting her to set up a meeting to discuss or inviting her into a more private area of the studio. As you can see, there is a range of ways that you can react to that very same circumstance. And what happens is our reaction or inaction comes from that original thought. So, if we take that circumstance again, that this mom is upset about what the costumes cost, if your brain goes to the place of, I'm going to let her have it, I'm going to get in her face just like she's getting in my face, and I'm going to tell her she needs to back off. Then, if that is the thought in your head, what is the next logical bit of action that you are going to take? You're probably going to escalate that situation. Now, same circumstance, but instead you're thinking, maybe she doesn't understand things, and I should explain to her why the prices are what they are. So, if that's the thought that your brain comes up with, then the most likely action that will follow is something like, I'm going to explain to her that the cost of the costumes is the retail cost and it includes our staff time, and all these different things are part of how we come up with this number. And still, there's also another way that you can think about it and react. You could think, hey, this mom is upset about this. Maybe she's upset about it because she is experiencing a financial strain when she sees that number. Maybe I can talk to her a little bit and find out more about what she's thinking. Now, if that thought comes into your mind, you might then react with an invitation to have a further conversation, and perhaps in private. As you can see, the very same circumstance that likely we've all experienced can have any number of thoughts and any number of reactions. And some of those thoughts and reactions can help you to feel empowered to make a difference in how you're interacting in this relationship with this parent. Still, other thoughts and reactions can create this sense of anger and frustration. And yet, another thought and reaction can create compassion. Now, how is it that compassion and anger and frustration and even indifference could come from the very same circumstance? It's because it's our brains that are dictating what is happening. You see, this circumstance didn't change in any of these examples. What did change is our thoughts. And those thoughts then create these emotions. Now, these emotions are what lead us to action or inaction and in that reaction. So, this is what I'll say. If you find yourself feeling frustrated or angry and you don't like the way you feel anymore, consider changing the thoughts that led you to that place. So, if I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I can be irritated, that's coming from indulging in thoughts that lead you to feel that way. If you take a moment to process the thoughts that come into your head, because there's some things that you have no control over, right? They're involuntary. These thoughts will come up into your head right away in reaction to things. If you take a moment to let that thought simmer for just even half a second, you can offer your brain a different perspective on that same circumstance that will lead to a different emotion. And from that different emotion, a different reaction or action or inaction. So I'm going to give you another example. Let's say you have a staff person that is particularly challenging. You find that they show up late, they sometimes come to meetings, and overall, you're just feeling some type of way and kind of, you know, you don't want them around anymore, but you feel like they can do some good in the classroom and you're really not sure. So you decide you're just going to ride out the season. In this circumstance, there's thoughts that are coming up. There's thoughts that this person is lazy. Another thought could be, they just can't follow instructions. I told them 100 times. There's the thought of, see, and this is why I don't hire young people because they're so inexperienced. Still, other times you might have the thought of, man, I shouldn't have just hired a warm body. I probably should have just taken my time in hiring because she really wasn't my top pick, but I didn't want to teach that class anymore. You could also have the thought that when you have somebody who's struggling to meet expectations, that you want to spend some time learning what's going on with them and their mind and their lives that's causing them to act this way. What is it about your meeting with them that didn't click? And you still also might have a thought that I'm going to fire this person. Forget waiting till the end of the season. I'm going to do it right now. So, in that broad continuum of thoughts that come to mind about this circumstance, you can see how logically would flow an emotion. If you believe that this person is lazy, you can feel disappointed, right? You can feel critical. You can feel frustrated. If you believe that this person is not a good fit and you hired them too hastily, you might feel anxious. You might even feel avoidant because you don't want to face this truth that you've uncovered. You could also perhaps feel as though this is something that you're so disappointed, you're almost humiliated for doing something like hiring this person and keeping them around. You could also feel disrespected that you told them what to do and they didn't do it. If we look at the example of, how do I talk to this person and find out what's going on? Where was the disconnect after our meeting? Then you might feel a little bit curious, a little bit optimistic that you could make a difference. Um, you might feel like perhaps you can turn the situation around. You see, as we look at these examples of all the different circumstances that will inevitably come up in life, there are thoughts that lead us to feel as though we are victims, and there are thoughts that lead us to feel that we are empowered to change how we feel. You see, on one side, you can put yourself in a situation where you feel like life is happening to you. And on the other side, you are making the choices that lead to how you feel about your life day in and day out. If you have a struggle with your partner, your spouse, and you're constantly arguing, man, this ability to coach yourself and change your thoughts can be life changing in some circumstances. If you're always arguing about certain things, try offering your brain an alternate thought pattern. So when they don't do the dang dishes, right? If they don't do the dishes and you've asked them and you feel like you have worked so hard and how come they won't pitch in? What if you offer a different thought than that lazy person? What a disgusting person. Why do they want a messy kitchen? What if instead of offering your mind those thoughts that come to mind, what if you find something else to think? Now, obviously, you can't jump from one extreme to the other. If you feel like your spouse does not care and will not do the dishes because they're disrespecting you, it's a far cry to say, everything's going to be great. I don't need them to do the dishes. It'll just happen by osmosis. That's not realistic. But I can offer you this. If you neutralize this circumstance, instead of saying, this person won't do these dang dishes again, and I'm so angry, and how could they, and they're disrespecting me, and they don't understand all the work that I do, they don't know how tired I am. What if you just neutralize it in your own mind and say, the dishes aren't done? That's factual. It has no judgment. And it doesn't boil your blood the same way as that vitriol for the other person. If you say that the dishes are done, the dishes aren't done, the emotional reaction isn't as strong. If we say the dishes aren't done, then how might you feel, right? You might feel indifferent. You might feel annoyed. You might feel disappointed, right? But then let's take it to the next step. If we can neutralize it that the dishes aren't done, let's take it to the next piece that's still factual. We could say the dishes aren't done and nobody has stepped up to say that they were going to do it. Again, same thing. We're not in this place of ragging on our spouse, saying all these terrible things. And it could be that maybe our spouse is sitting on the couch and relaxing. And I know for a lot of women, actually, I'm going to pause for a moment. I know for a lot of women, this can be irritating. And I actually found a meme online. I think it was on Facebook. It was a fake article and it's sad. Psychologists have discovered that nothing will irritate a woman more than when her husband is laying on the couch and she's doing housework. And so that perfectly captures this kind of circumstance where you're wanting something to get done. You notice your spouse is relaxing on the couch. And oftentimes the immediate thing is, how do I attack this person? Because this thing needs to be done. And they have the audacity to be laying down while I'm thinking about this needs to be clean. So we've neutralized it to say the dishes aren't done. We've neutralized it to say, and nobody has stepped up to say that they were going to do it. You could have the next thought of saying, I'm tired. I had a long day at work and I would prefer not to do it. What if the thought is walking over to our spouse without yelling and say, could you take care of the dishes today? Without an attack. Now, some of you must be thinking I'm crazy for saying this, right? I understand the struggle. And yet, I know that if you come at your spouse calm and unbothered and simply ask them to do the dishes that day, their reaction to now the circumstance of you reacting to the dishes, their reaction can vary widely based on how you ask, right? If you approach your spouse and say, you never do the dang dishes, here I go again, now I gotta do it, da 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 da, their reaction is probably going to be to shut down or start arguing with you and shouting and fighting. But if you simply say, hey, really, tired, and I would love it if you would do the dishes today. Would you mind doing that for me? Or, hey, the dishes need to be done. Could you please take care of that tonight? That is going to get a different reaction from your spouse. And see, all we did was change the thoughts in our head that led us to this place. There was no magical thing that happened. All we did was we let those thoughts simmer for a moment and then interject new thoughts to neutralize it in our head before taking the next step. It's not as basic as give it some time before reacting, right? Because a lot of times when people say, "Oh, you're upset right now, let's talk about it later." If you don't actually consciously change a thought in your mind, all you're doing is delaying the big blow up later on. That's what's going to happen. But if you do the work within your own mind to change your thoughts so that you can feel different in how you react to your spouse, you can feel different in that anxiety building up, that anger building up, your heart rate is racing. If you can change your thoughts to change how you feel, your emotional reaction, man, what a difference it's going to make. So, my friends, I want to wrap this up with a reminder of these key points. First, that you have the ability to change how you think and how you feel about any circumstance in your life. Second, when you coach yourself and try on different thoughts, it gives you the ability to change how you feel and experience life. And when you are able to change how you feel and experience life, then gosh darn it, it changes how you act, react, or choose not to act. So now I'm going to bring this back to the dance studio business. If you feel frustrated about something with your staff, something with your marketing, maybe you're not getting enough students in that you're hoping for, maybe it's something with your finances. If you can find a way to capture those thoughts that come into your head time and again, capture just one thought at a time, and see if you can offer yourself a different thought that neutralizes and takes out judgment, takes out negativity, takes out toxic positivity, like everything's going to be fine when you really don't feel that way. Take that out too. Neutralize the situation. Change your emotional pattern. And on the other side, you'll change your action or reaction. So, practically speaking, if your tuition numbers is not enough money to give yourself and your staff the raise that you want, and your recurring thought is, this is impossible, we can't possibly make enough money, this will never happen, then your emotions are going to take you into a sad place, a lonely place, depressed, despair. You might feel inferior. You might come to indifferent, apathetic, isolated. These are emotions that you're likely feeling if you believe it's not possible to make a change. But now, if you take that same circumstance of the tuition number that we bring in does not meet what we need to give these people a raise, now we're going to think about in a totally different way. So our circumstance stays the same. But when we notice ourselves saying everything will be fine, and it's not, when we notice ourselves saying this is impossible, what we're going to do instead is pause and we're going to say, I can figure this out. That's all. We can figure this out. I can figure this out. When you make that change, and you repeat it to yourself, man, tuition doesn't meet the goal of where the studio needs it to be. Our thought is, I can figure this out. When you have the thought, I can figure this out, then your reaction will be, well, let me look at the data. Let me look at the numbers. Do we have people in the pipeline who are waiting for their trial class? Well, that's going to increase tuition right there. Do we have an ad campaign that's about to launch? Do we have some new marketing thing? Are we updating the website? Are we going to email the people on our list? What are the things that we can do to take action to get the number where it needs to be? You see, there you are taking back your power. You are empowered to make the change that you want to see. And that, my friends, is the biggest difference I'm seeing with people who are successful in business and those who are struggling in business. It's finding ways to take back their power, to look at a problem and say, well, we're going to have to figure it out. I'll just figure it out. If you don't know how to do something, then go learn how to do it. And in fact, that is where you will see the greatest success. When instead of laying down and saying, I surrender, this is just impossible, instead you say, we'll figure it out. We're going to get it done. My friends, coaching yourself, for me, is one of the greatest, most empowering things that you can do, especially as a woman in business. There's going to be plenty of naysayers out in the world who don't agree with our industry and don't take it seriously. They don't realize that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? There's going to be people in your family who have sown the seeds of fear of failure. There's going to be people who say, you can't do it. What's going to be your backup plan? What's your side job? Are you really going to make any money doing that? That's impossible. There's going to be enough negativity and negative self-talk from others and yourself. So when you have that option to choose a different path, a different thought, a different reaction, when you do that, you take back your power. Friends, I want to invite you to explore this further. If you would like to hop on a call with me, you can go to my website, gingerheathcox.com. Go ahead and book a 15-minute discovery call. And what we'll do is we're going to talk for a little bit. You don't have to prepare anything. You don't have to get ready or prepare anything for the discovery call. All you're going to do is answer a few questions so I can get to know more about you and your business. And then by the end of the call, we'll decide together what's the best next step for you. If you're ready to do that again, visit my website at gingerheathcox.com and I'll put that in the show notes. Until next time, I wish you the best.